For generations, the origins of the Viking world were confined to the pages of poetry. We viewed the North as a place of static legends, but new research is mapping the genomes of these ancient populations to find the history hidden within the myth. The long-standing consensus among historians was that Scandinavia functioned like a sealed box. It was considered an isolated northern world where nothing changed demographically until the Viking expansion began in the late 8th century. But archaeology eventually challenged that isolation. Researchers began uncovering elite Asian horse gear and Sasanian-style helmets in early Swedish graves, artifacts that belonged thousands of miles to the east. Scholars traditionally neutralized these finds by assuming the objects moved through trade, while the people themselves stayed put. This effectively erased the possibility of a physical migration. However, the Norse themselves preserved a different account. In the 13th century, Snorri Sturluson recorded that a warlord named Odin led a group called the Aesir, the Men of Asia, from the Black Sea region into Scandinavia. Modern historians dismissed Snorri's work as prestige fiction. They argued it was a fabricated pedigree designed to give medieval Norse kings a more glorious, invented ancestry. But at Gamla Uppsala, the early Swedish kings were buried in massive mounds using Scythian-style cremation practices. These rituals align with Central Asian traditions, not the local practices of the time. For decades, the story of Odin remained an academic outlier, an anomaly that lacked the biological proof required to move it from the realm of legend into the history books. This bar chart shows the scale of ancient genome datasets used in recent research. The 2025 Spidal study represents a massive shift in data, utilizing over 1,500 ancient whole genomes to map European history. This study utilized a method called twigstats. It acts as a time-stratified filter that removes the broad background noise of older data and isolates specific ancestry shifts among closely related groups that traditional methods miss. These maps of Scandinavia illustrate gene flow identified by the research, revealing a large-scale ancestry influx arriving from the south and east. The genomic data places this upheaval between 350 and 500 CE, centuries before Viking ships left the fjords. The genomic record identifies a massive physical migration occurring precisely during the centuries once thought to be static. Researcher David K. Foe turned to the paternal line, the Y chromosome, to track exactly where these new arrivals originated. He identified rare, non-European DNA signatures in modern Norse populations, specifically haplogroup Q and Asian-specific subsets of R1A1. These signatures don't match the people in neighboring Eastern Europe. Instead, they form a direct biological match with the tribal Siberian Altai of Central Asia and the Azeri people of Azerbaijan. This biological arrival coincides with a specific archaeological moment, the appearance of the Strängnäs runestone. Carved right as this demographic shift reached its peak, this stone contains the first human attestation of the name Wodenar. The biological trail is no longer a coincidence. It is a physical nudge for the men of Asia described in the sagas. The final pillar of evidence comes from the mathematical analysis of royal history. Christopher T. Knight examined the early pedigrees of English and Scandinavian kings. Across multiple independent royal houses, from Kent to Mercia, every dynasty claimed descent from a single ancestral point, Woden. This bar chart shows the estimated placement of Woden across these royal lines. When these lineages are counted back from historical anchor figures, they cluster tightly in the 4th and 5th centuries. The dynastic memory of these various kingdoms points directly to the same 4th century pressure zone identified by the genomic data. We now have 3 distinct lines of evidence: Snorri's texts, the Asian paternal DNA, and the royal genealogies of the early kingdoms. All 3 independent datasets converge on the same timeline, 350 to 500 CE. The convergence of these 3 datasets establishes a biological and chronological reality behind the legend of the migration. We are looking at the demographic shift that founded the Viking world. For more on the research, visit wodensman.com and follow @wodensman. Look for The Quest for the Historical Odin on December 1st, 2027, and watch for the film The Last Road from Asgard. Skull.